Rights-based approaches and co-management. Right-based approaches, it is less explicit about the object of sustainability and more concerned with the allocation of rights and responsibilities. Right-based approaches to fisheries management have expanded and focused from property rights to access rights to human rights. So, right-based approaches focus on the rule of people and constitute a conceptual framework for the process of human development. In a specific context of small-scale fisheries and its dependent people and communities. So this result first in reinforcing of their claim for recognition in national policy and service provision and for legal protections and support for legitimate livelihood actions. Property rights issues still dominate fisheries management. Even with this category, there is a range of perspectives from debate over private property rights and the rules that the market, the state, the judiciary, and the monitoring and evaluation play in defining, distributing, and upholding these rights to understanding the conditions conducive to managing commonly owned resources. Well, it also carries a connection with the concept of rights to access resources, though these rights may be modified by various management approaches ranging from generalized open access rights to more tightly defined bases of ownership under various conditions. So the most often here, the need to link responsibilities with the rights are being further progressed, and a rights-based approach in fisheries is becoming one in which rights to stakeholders, particularly at small-scale level, are being defined and protecting in association with expectation for responsibility behavior. Accordingly, in Ostrom in 1990, Hilborn et al. In 2005, natural resources management has been heavily influenced by economic model of human behavior and Hardens in 1968, which is the tragedy of commons metaphor. In fisheries, the Gordon-Schaefer diagram depicting a predictable relationship between cost, effort, and benefit has dominated management. So, the relation between these attributes is controlled in a number of ways, for example, by capping total catches, controlling effort, and regulating how fish are caught. So, the stakeholders continue to debate how best to allocate and regulate property regimes for fisheries. By the way, in developing countries, the diversity of SSFs makes such management strategies more difficult to implement. According to Ostrom in 1990, Burkes 1995, NRC in 2002, work on common property rights re-established communities as viable stewards of shared resources. While according also to Burkes et al. In 2002 and Denbol et al. In 2006, work in cultural and political ecology emphasized the right of communities and local people to be involved in managing themselves and their resources. By E.G. Wilson et al. In 2003, Pomeroy and Rivera Gibb in 2006, consequently, there has been a proliferation of participatory and collaborative management forms. As they are defined and interpreted in a variety of ways, co-management and community-based management are evolving conceptually into relatively complex ideas. So therefore, their collaborative management in its simplest form refers to management processes that include entities or in addition to the state in decision-making, usually resulting in a partnership between state and resource users, but also cooperation with other stakeholders and independent organizations or NGOs and research organizations. Next is the Principles of Good Governance by Wilson et al. In 2003, and which are the democracy, transparency, the accountability, and the sustainability. So these principles are necessary to ensure that co-management confers the responsibility to share power, the knowledge, and the capacity as well as to assign tasks. There is 4 issues that complicate the practice of rights-based management. First issue is the property rights consist of bundles of rights including to access, right to enter, withdrawal, which is right to extract, then management, that is right to regulate use, then exclusion, the right to deny access, and alienation, the right to sell, lease, or transfer, which can influence how resources are allocated. And you can see this in Ribot and Piloso in 2003. Next is the management consists of a variety of functions, which include the policy, the service delivery, the research and monitoring, the institutional design, and enforcement use. And for the stages is the planning, the implementation and evaluation, the levels, instructive to information. And for the scales is the spatial, administrative, and institutional, at which participation or collaboration can occur. You can see this at Sen and Rajikar Nielsen in 1996. Next issue is the notion of a distinct, equitable, and consensual community is flawed. Those management that requires a defined set of stakeholders for power sharing must itself define this community. So the last issue is the effective and sustainable collaborative management is likely to require broader political and social transition, including such as decentralization and effective legislative and judicial institution, and the integrated planning to support it. And watch to the Ribot et al. In 2006. So research continues to examine the conditions suitable for effective communal management of resources, which is proving relatively elusive in practice. Property rights and broader access rights continue to be integral to how to co-management and community-based management manifest in practice. The resilience literature also specifies the need for collaborative management to enable the foster adapted capacity of social ecological systems by E.G. Olson et al. In 2004. So the more recently, human rights approaches that integrate concerns for access rights, user rights, post-harvest rights, and human rights are coming to the fore. So, in broadly, such approaches espouse principles found in Millennium Development Goals and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, including well-being, dignity, the non-discrimination and equality, as well as other more common principles of good governance such as participation and accountability. Therefore, the awareness of rights and the capacity to demand rights and hold states accountable are central within this framework. In the fishery sector, a move towards human rights concern is evidenced by mainstreaming of health and education in fisheries research and management by campaigns such as the right to food. As counterweight to the marginalization of local communities from resources as a consequence of conservation, tourism development, and large-scale fisheries activities.